Hello, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to this week's update on a Friday. I know I've managed to sort everything out, and here we are on a Friday, which is my preferred day to do it because it's our first day of the weekend out here. Anyway, enough of that blah. What's been going on the channel then? Been quite busy. Last week was the part 2 and final part of the little Armour Hobby H75. That is mainly the painting and the weathering. I painted most of the markings, just used a few decals here and there. And the paint ratios are actually embedded in the video. I know some people were asking. I think I might have sort of let slip that I was going to put it in the description in part 1, which I said that in error. I wasn't intending to do that. And I think having it in the video is better because I actually show the bottles of paint I'm using, and then I just put a little texting with the ratios on, and I think that was the best way to do it. So that's what I did. And yeah, lovely little thing. Some great feedback on that, and thoroughly enjoyed that little project. The next project is part 1 is edited. The voiceover is done. I just need to upload it to YouTube, and that'll be with you on Sunday evening / afternoon. So 18:30 my time, which is 16:30 UK time, and you can do the maths wherever you are in the world on that. Beautiful kit, the Airfix TR9 Spitfire. Blew me away. Actually, it's the quality is right up there. There's a few little niggles here and there. Some people will complain about the rivets being a little bit overdone. However, even though I didn't treat them, I know Jen, she sprayed hers in black primer and then sanded it back to make everything a little bit more subdued and a little bit sharper here and there. I didn't. I left mine as were. So I was very sort of sympathetic, light touch when it came to the painting and weathering. And I think, yeah, I think it worked quite well. I will be getting the single seater. It just blew me away. It's going to be Belgian, because I do like a Belgian Spitfire. More of that in a minute. And yeah, I very much doubt that's going to be out in the next couple of weeks. Actually, the missus is coming out, and I'm hoping, so she's coming out in sort of 2 or 3 weeks time. I'm really hoping that she can bring with her my Avia S19 from Edward in 48 scale. Brand new sort of hybrid system. If I can get that out, if she's able to bring it out with her, I'll do a review and I'm going to build it straight away. Yeah, really excited to get that. So friend of the channel, Andy, he actually went to eDay. He picked one up for me. He brought it back. He lives and works in Belgium, so he's going to pop it in the post. It's a little bit convoluted. I hope it gets here. There's no way I'm going to trust the Saudi postal system to post that one out. Right, that's that. What else is going to come on the channel then? Because this is because this is finished, I'm actually going to have a break from modelling projects. What I'm going to do is I want to do a separate video on the latest Edward 32nd scale announcements. I'm going to touch on it in the news. I want to do a review of the VMS varnish. I've got not varnish, primers. I've got the grey, the black and the white. So I want to bring that to you. I also want to bring you a review of the MRP acrylic paints that I've got. I actually used them on this for a little bit of the weathering, a little bit of sort of post shading, chipping thing, which didn't really work because the sort of varnish layers and then the oil weathering and stuff, it kind of blended it away, because I was a little bit too subtle when I did it. It looked great when it went on, and then I just kind of covered it up with other layers, which was a bit of a pain in the bum. So I've not actually sprayed them yet. That was just a little bit of sort of brush painting, heavily diluted. So I'm going to bring that to you. The vehicle I'm going to do that on is, I've got a Trumpeter ME109. It's sat up there, F4 Trop as it is. I'm literally just going to put the airframe together. I'll probably build the cockpit. Why not? Put the airframe together, and then I've got a paint mule that I can use for those reviews. What I might do at the same time is I might do a review of my Harder and Steenbeck Infinity 2024. It's new to me. I'm not a Harder and Steenbeck user, or I haven't been, but I'm a bit of a convert because it's a beautiful airbrush. So I'll try and bring that to you as well. So a little bit of a break from the modeling videos, and yeah, I'll get those out to you, and then it's going to be on with the next project, which might be the Avia, if the wife can bring it out. If not, it's going to be Dallas 32nd scale f/18 in Australian markings, which is going to be quite cool because that's going to be in flight. Right, that is that. Yes, let's talk about the finished Spitfire. I've got to be careful because there's a few sticky out bits on it. Not least the propeller. More of that in a minute. Right, this is, if you didn't know, the Laminar Flow Designs conversion for the Mark 14 for the Tamiya Spitfire Mark 8. I described last time the actual conversion bits and bobs. Now it's all finished. I literally finished it a few hours ago. Had a few little problems with the painting, I will say. Primarily because I painted the fuselage roundels in the wrong place. This model, I decided to paint the roundels before the camouflage, and I had a comment on the H75, the Armour Hobby P36 video, saying why don't I try painting the markings first and then the camouflage over the top. Well, I do that regularly, actually. Just on that model, I decided not to. No rhyme or reason, I just decided I wanted to do it that way round. This one, I did it the other way round. I did actually paint the roundels first, and I always do the fin flash first as well, always. The way I do the fin flash is I paint the stripes, and then I cut out a one-piece mask and just put that over the top. You get a much neater result. The roundels so the whole model was primed in Tamiya grey primer, which is a beautiful primer. It's my primer of choice. Having said that, I still need to have a little play with the VMS ones. I painted undercoat white for the yellow to give that a bit of body. Painting yellow, it really does need an undercoat of white, or some people use pink. I used white in this case. While I was at it, I painted the spinner as well, which is one piece. And then I had a little bit of sort of shuffling around to try and line up the roundels to get them in exactly the right place. That is the most difficult thing, I think, of doing it that way round. So the yellow was masked, then the red went down. I wanted to sort of subdue the red a little bit, so I used the RAF marking red from MRP, and I did my normal of, I didn't want it too bright, so I did dark earth, and then I did the marking red, but it was too dull. It was that proper terracotta RAF wartime red, which is not appropriate for this. The roundels in the Belgian Spitfires were much brighter than that, a bit almost like the sort of pre-war, post-war red that the UK used. So I went tried to go over the top of that with the I've got the Soviet FOD cover red, which is quite a bright orangey red, and that took actually quite a few layers. What I should have done is gone over yellow again over the top, or even white, and then laid that red over the top. So that was a bit of an ish. I did the yellow of the leading edge stripes at the same time, which are not that neat, which is a pain because in one of the masking sets that I had for the camouflage, it included the yellow stripes. So I really wish I painted them at the end. Anyway, irregardless, which is a made-up word we use in work all the time, ironically, because the Australians seem to love it, is then I did the centre, the black, which was not obviously pure black, it was NATO black, which actually I think is too grey. I think it's too light in tone, the MRP. So I had a few drops of black in that, and then I put that on there, and then they were masked off. Then I did the camouflage, which I used Tamiya. I love the Tamiya camouflage paints. They're just beautiful. The interesting, actually, like I said, I've got camouflage masks, but I didn't want a hard edge camouflage. What I did is I did the medium sea grey first, masked that off, and then I went down with the, what did I do first? I think it was the grey first. So I went down with a lightened version of ocean grey, because ocean grey really faded, and obviously these are quite old aeroplanes. They're sort of around sort of 48, 49, 50, 51, around that sort of time. So it was the original paint job. So the ocean grey had faded considerably. So I did lighten that up quite a bit. Did some sort of post shading effects, lightened it, darkened it here and there. And then what I did is I put the camouflage masks down, and then I misted very thin dilute green over that mask demarcation, then took the mask away, and then I had a guide, for a really accurate guide for the dark green, which I did freehand. And with the H&S airbrush I've got, diluted Tamiya paint a little bit more than you would do normally, I managed to get a really tight demarcation, which I was really pleased with. Thickened up the paint slightly once the demarcations were done, and then went in post shading, lightened it, darkened it, made it a little bit more random here and there. And then that was that. What I should have mentioned actually is the wing root chipping. I laid down some Alclad duralumin, then was in the Ammo Ace Down bottle, bit of a varnish over the top to protect it, and then I actually used some masking fluid applied with a sponge rather than use the hairspray technique, because I was going to use some masks for the markings and stuff, and it can be a little bit fragile. So that's the kind of basic camouflage. What I then did is enhance the chipping with some of the Infinity sanding sponges that young Ed from Premium Hobbies sent me. So thank you very much, Ed. Really, really sort of fine one. I think it was 2,500 grit of the sanding sort of sponge sheets. Cut a little bit off, and then just with a little bit of water, just to help with things, just very gently polished the paint to reveal a really worn effect. So that was primarily around the edges of the paint chipping, and super pleased with how that turned out. Then I painted the fuselage codes and the serials. It's post-war, so it's got the serials under the wing. In this guise of this aeroplane, eventually it was repainted with different markings, and the serials were overpainted, and then the Belgian series were painted on. But I had this wonderful picture of a really beaten up one in this configuration, so that's what I wanted to do. Then I painted, as I was painting the fuselage codes, I was comparing it with the photo, and I realised that I put the fuselage roundel in the wrong place, too far forward. I do have a picture of a Belgian Spitfire with those roundels in that position, and I was very tempted to leave it, but I couldn't live with it, so I had to change it. So what I did is I very carefully sanded away the paint around that sort of mid fuselage, and then went in and went over the top. Unfortunately, what I'd done is I'd put the first layer of wash over the top, the sludge wash, and I'd done a satin varnish. And actually, here's the top tip: the VMS satin varnish, you get a beautiful sheen, but it is too grabby for a sludge wash, so don't do that, because I actually had to use some enamel thinner on the kitchen towel and rub it off. And yeah, I wasn't very pleased with how that worked out. So note to self, don't do that over a satin varnish. Do it over the shiny glossy varnish, and then you can varnish over the top at the end. So trying to match the tone of the ocean grey and the green was really quite tricky. Stencils, One Man Army. Thank you very much to Sven from One Man Army. He sent me the masks for the Mark 8 Spitfire and also all the roundels. He has actually sent me the markings for this aeroplane, but clearly I didn't want to wait for the missus to come out. She's not coming out for another 2 or 3 weeks. I wanted to finish the project, so I did actually make my own. But thank you very much to Sven for taking the time to make those. And yeah, I'm going to have to wonder what I'm going to do with those. But there we are. I'll sort that out in due course. Right. Where were we? Right, yeah, that was the painting and the weathering. I did go in. It's been post-shaded. It's been all dot weathered. There is considerable Ming underneath. What I must do is take a picture of the Ming underneath, actually. Yeah, I wanted this one really oily to go with the sort of really heavily weathered sort of vibe of this model. So, yeah, that's a kind of oily tone and, yeah, liberal, let's just say, is the word that comes to mind there. The gun barrels are actually master gun barrels. They are the early E gun barrels. You get the late E gun barrels in the Laminar Flow Designs conversion set, but I just wanted for this model to go with the early E gun barrels, so they were master. The 50 cals are utterly beautiful. Exhaust stain. I'll try and put a picture of the exhaust stain. The exhaust stain was really prominent on some of these Spitfires, and it goes all the way down to the tail. What I actually did was, first of all, I did a mixture of kind of a sooty exhaust colour. So black and red brown. Did that. Sealed that in with a matte varnish, because actually when you thin Tamiya paints, even flat paints, right down so they're very thin, they do dry glossy. That had a matte coat, MRP matte over the top for speed. Then hairspray. And then I went over with the really chalky colour. So that was a mix of buff, medium sea grey and white. So a very light colour. Deck tan would be perfect, but I don't have any. That was a more opaque colour. Then that went down, and that was hairspray chipped in a sort of vertical motion. Almost like a rain marks type effect. So that went down. Actually, I kind of chipped a little bit too much off because I did use too much hairspray, which was a bit of a pain. So what I did was I sealed it with another layer of varnish, and then I sprayed over the top with that same tone, and then I went in with a more diluted black brown over the top of that. So it's a very much multi-layered exhaust stain effect. With that done, that was pretty much it actually for the weathering. Then it was just a question of bringing it all together. The exhaust stacks, the pipes, I used the rounded exhausts. Probably should have been the fishtail exhausts, but actually I just prefer the round exhaust. I think it looked nice. And who's to say, maybe it had an engine change at some point in its life around this time. But that's probably inaccurate. Another little inaccuracy is I forgot to put on the very tiny little thin strip kind of bulges on the top of the wings. So that's a pain. I also forgot to do the crowbar for the door, but you do see sometimes pictures of photographs of Spitfires with the crowbar missing. So there you go. I had forgotten to put the little sort of, I think it's a blind approach aerial. I forgot to put that on, so I had to do that afterwards. The holes for the slipper tank were a bit of a pain, so I did actually use the metal pins, which sit slightly too proud. I'm not happy with that. And I forgot to cover the ID light in the sort of center fuselage here, because obviously it's moved to the back. So on my next one, I must remember I'm going to fill those and fill that, so it should be more accurate. I'm just going to live with it. It's on the underside. You wouldn't know unless you pick it up and turn it over. One thing also I didn't do is the landing light in the wing. Some Mark 14s had one, some had two, some had none. I'm going with none for this one. But in hindsight, I wish I'd done it. Done the one on the left-hand side. What you can't rely on is the Carolina plans in the Valiant Wings book. They are riddled with errors. E-wings, labelled E-wings, they're clearly C-wings. You've got Mark 18s with C-wing gun barrels. And they really cannot be trusted for details like lights underneath and things like that, which is a real shame. If they were accurate, it would be much better. There's also, in the building a collection, all 14s, I'm going to make a bold claim here, all 14s and 18s had the short ailerons from the Mark 8. They would have you believe there were some long aileron Mark 14s and 18s. I think that's wrong. Again, that's on the plans as well. And then it was a question of just doing the final details. I've used the brass-in wheels. The actual centre inserts were a tiny bit too small, so there's a little bit of a gap around there, which is a bit of a pain. Other than that, they're beautiful. I didn't have any Barracuda ones to use on this one. I've run out. And I drilled a little hole for the whip aerial at the back, and the spinner and prop is magnetised. And that is it. She's finished. Really beaten up. Went to town on the weathering. I don't think it's overdone. It looks overdone, but it's not when you look at the pictures. And I love this model. It's fantastic. As I said last time, unusual in that it's got the extended wingtips, which is unusual for a Belgian Spitfire. In hindsight, I kind of wish I'd done not a Belgian one on this one. I kind of wish I'd done the SEAC one, the Southeast Asia Command on this one with the full span wings, because the 24th scale Spitfire, I really want a big scale SEAC Spitfire in my collection. So now I've really got to do that on the 24 scale one with the full span wings. I know, yes, there were some with clip wings. So in hindsight, I wish I'd done full span SEAC 32nd scale high back to leave me the option of the 24 scale clipped wing Belgian. But anyway, crumbs. This microphone's a bit of a pain. There we are. Absolutely beautiful project. Love the model to bit. It's absolutely wonderful, and can't wait to see it in the cabinet at home. I hope you enjoy that. I filmed it all, so I will be editing that in due course. Right, on with the news. Not much to bring you. So the Edouard news. They announced at E-Day 132nd scale Spitfire Mark 9 and FW190A and FW190D. They are new tools and they are the hybrid system, like the Avia S199. So if you're not aware, the hybrid system is low plastic parts count for the main bits of the airframe essentially, and then 3D printed resin, cockpit, undercarriage, wheels, wheel bays, gear bays, stuff like that. It keeps the cost down. It increases the detail significantly. The only downside I can see is maybe some modelers are perhaps a little bit intimidated by the 3D printed resin parts, because they do take careful handling. But I think it's a wonderful idea. I'm going to do a separate video on the 32nd scale releases, hopefully this weekend. So that's that. DBMK have announced a 132nd scale Seahawk. I must apologise to DBMK. So DBMK, if you didn't know, startup company in the UK. They've been around for a couple of years, busily announcing kits that they're going to do without actually producing a kit to market yet. So there has been some criticism, and I totally get where it comes from, of announcing a new kit, 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 and they haven't actually brought to market, their first kit yet. They didn't want to announce the Seahawk, but it kind of leaked out, and a retailer actually put it on their website. So they were kind of forced into announcing it much earlier than they wanted to. They didn't want to announce it yet. They were definitely waiting for their first two kits, which is the 1/32nd scale Hornet and 1/32nd scale Sea Fury, to hit the market. Now, if you're going to Telford, before I talk about that, so I do want to apologise for DBMK. I didn't have a rant. I just made a comment that I just wish they would stop announcing new tool kits that they're going to do and just concentrate on bringing to market. They did explain that it was a bit of a mistake. It wasn't their intention, and they kind of said sorry, bit of a mea culpa, and I want a mea culpa. That's totally understandable. These things happen. It wasn't their intention to do it yet, and fair play to those guys. There's only a handful of friends that are doing it as a bit of a sideline, a bit like Qatari, and there was a bit of a reaction. Quite a small one, a storm in a teacup, I would say. But, I played my part in that, so I just wanted to hold my hands up and say sorry to those guys. And I do wish them all the success. They're hoping to have the Hornet with them at Telford, I think, to sell. And they will be having built-up models, built-up test shots of the Sea Fury on display as well. So momentum is gathering. Like I say, so the Hornet may well be ready for Telford, if not shortly afterwards, and then I probably swiftly followed actually by the Sea Fury. I don't think that is far behind. I just wanted to mention that. Right, and the last one is Mini Art continue with their P47 theme. They've announced the M. The only other M is the Tamiya 48 scale kit, which is really, really nice. But obviously this takes up to another level. It's classic Mini Art. I think it's possibly over-engineered, but they are beautifully detailed kits. The one I really like is the N. I think that's a fabulous looking aeroplane with a laminar flow wing and the squared off wingtips. And I built the 32nd scale one, the trumpeter one, way back when, actually. And that was a really nice kit. So, I still highly recommend that, even though it's really quite old now. There we are. That is the news. So, a bit of a long one, this one, because a bit of a debrief on the Spitfire. As I said, loved that project. Looks beautiful. Really looking forward to doing the 24th scale one, which will be some point next year. I don't know exactly when, because I do have the ICM Hampton coming for Scale Aircraft Modelling magazine. So that is going to have to take priority when that arrives. I'm hoping that's going to arrive before I have to leave after my Christmas leave. Because if I miss that, I'm not going to be able to do it until Ramadan, which is kind of February, March time. So it'll be sort of April by the time I get to start building that. So I really hope that's out before sort of Christmas time. And then, very excitingly, I am getting a test shot from Qatari of the Hurricane. No idea when that's coming. I must send them an email to ask, so I can just have a rough idea in my mind where I'm likely to be able to fit it in, because I really want to do that 24 scale Spitfire conversion, because that's going to be a bit of a beast. I still may do it clip winged, and I still may do it in Belgian colours, maybe. And then the bubble top I'll do in 32nd scale. I could do that as SEAC. That might be a solution. We shall see. It's all in the future. Right. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you to the new subscribers. Bit of a sort of mini surge, shall we say, in subscribers. So welcome aboard. Like, subscribe, YouTube, blah, Scrinton, flip-flop, thingamajig. You know how it all works. It does help me out if you subscribe. Actually, it's quite exciting to see the... Right, sorry about that. The camera got so bored, it said the maximum recording time limit has been reached. so it switched itself off. So yeah, I have been blowing on for far too long, so I'm going to leave it there. I just wanted to record this little final outro for a bit of continuity. So like I say, thanks very much for watching. Look out, lots to come on the channel, lots of interesting stuff, some like I say, some interesting reviews coming of some products and paints and airbrushes and things like that, and obviously the modelling as well and the projects. So thanks very much for watching. I'll see you soon. Cheers, bye bye.